Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.
Hey everybody, welcome to Golden Guys. We're just like the Golden Girls, without all the sex appeal and everything going on, without the cheesecake as well today. We don't have DS tonight, but we're here. We got everybody else. Knights of, well, let me bring in our special guest. Knights and Jeff, say our special guest tonight, Mr. Anthony Snyder of Anthony's Comic Con. How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, it's an honor to have you, man.
And I'll say this, without even asking these guys, I can guarantee all of us have bought something from you, whether it be book or art. I know I have a lot of books and art and stuff like that from you. So we know how we do it, and we have a great time. And Knights, you're muted.
I just did bad jokes, so it's fine.
You self-muted?
Self-muted. So those of you that probably know that Anthony, we talk about a lot who we see books from. This is Anthony Snyder. He's been doing this since 95, you said? Just about professionally?
Yeah, early 90s, yeah.
Man, that was
early 90s.
That was when I was probably started my more collecting aspects of it. I remember going to Westchester shows and the shows out on Long Island and the shows in New York and everything my whole life, going to seeing all these different dealers and everything. Gus and stuff like that. But it's been
what
fun.
was that show at the Holiday Inn that was in was it a Ronkonkoma?
Ronkonkoma show, yeah.
You know that? I used to go to that.
So yeah, that's where I met Vince the first time.
That's where I met John Mancuda the first time, and we would talk about Schomburg and how we both love Schomburg, and he was looking for Schomburg art, and we both didn't know how hard that was at that point in our lives.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, there were a lot of good shows back then in Westchester. There was one in White Plains at this. Always had a good crew, and Long Island had a lot of the Marvel guys, so it was a little different back then when the most I think you paid for anybody to do anything was $10, and that was like a drawing, if that. And it was just a different time. But nowadays obviously the comics has gone into this much more of an economy, but it's a lot more fun. And you've been doing this, as I said, steady for over 25 years now. I mean, happy silver anniversary.
Yep.
And, I think it's
thanks.
You know, and you've been
what's silver anniversary? Oh, for silver, yeah, silver. It's funny. I love silver. I was born in Nevada, and I just have this connection to silver, the precious metal, and I spent like $5,000-6,000 on silver this week. I just keep buying silver, and it keeps going up. So it's actually a good investment.
Exactly. Better than
I even get like little slabs of coins, little slabs. Mini slabs.
Or do you just buy it by the ounces, or do you actually buy coins too?
I buy the coins. A lot of people, in my brick and mortar spot, they come by and they sell me loose coinage. I got this great guy. He's about 85 years old, and he used to be a toll booth attendant. And what he would do every day after silver converted, after 64, he would sort through his bin, his change, and take out all the silver and switch it out. And now he comes and sells me like, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 of silver every day.
Nice.
That's like his retirement. Yeah. Everybody's like, Jerry's here. But I've spent up to $1,000 with him, so it's kind of fun. I can, my wife doesn't like it because there's like a chest of silver coins in the room.
It's not easy. I can't get into precious metals, man. I got enough, vices already with these comic books and collectibles. I appreciate it, and I'd love to own bars of stuff, but man, oh God, I feel like
I mean, 100-ounce bars are nice. My wife is here. My Sharon is here. So you know Sharon, right?
Yep.
Guru.
Sharon.
How's it going, Sharon? Yeah, I mean, you saw you on the video too on YouTube the other day.
Bars of stuff is awesome.
Nice.
I used to work at an arcade, and every week when we would collect all the quarters, oh God, that was the worst. But we'd collect everything and put them through the machines. We would pick out all the like ones that would sound a little differently, and yeah, usually they were the rare.
They were silver, yeah.
And because every now and then some kids would come in there with their like grandfathers, you know,
And their uncle, yeah, they go take their uncle there or your grandfather's coin to just use them.
Just take him to go take down Q-Bird or something, you know?
yeah.
Trying to beat Costanza's record on Frogger. So,
No.
Well, our friend David Mandel wrote that episode.
Oh, nice.
I think he did.
Right? Big comic collector, isn't he? Or art collector?
Big art collector, yeah, David.
He helped us with stuff.
All right, yeah. So we have we're gonna start with a few. What would you want to show anything first, right off the bat? I know you wanted to show the.
Oh, yeah.
Are you in New Jersey or New York? New Jersey.
I'm in we live in Jersey now. Yeah, we bought a house in late 2000 out here when we started having babies, and now we have over 18 feet of boy in this house, and it's like. Ugh.
When I was a kid, I lived in I can't remember the name of it, but they have a giant elephant on the beach. It's
Asbury Park,
maybe
in Jersey.
Yeah, it's by Atlantic City, I guess. I can't remember, but apparently
Maywood, or below it or above it?
I don't know, but the elephant is apparently pretty famous, but I guess not that.
So this one came in today.
Yeah, look at this.
This getting the glare. Yeah, there it is.
Nice.
Really cool atomic torpedo with Sun Girl. That's Sun Girl coming out of the water, right?
Is that Nomura or Sun Girl?
It's Nomura.
Oh no, that's Nomura. Yeah, you're right. It's Nomura. Bondage cover and the whole.
I'm not sure what I don't know what Subby's doing. He's just kind of pulling on levers.
He's now to see if this new torpedo works, and it's an atomic torpedo. I don't know what he's gonna do. And then Submariner, it's aimed at me. Help!
That's great. I love that later Submariner run. It's awesome when they have the crossovers in Nomura.
A lot of cool things.
What was the page quality on that?
Not good.
4.5.
Is that a new resolution?
No, the page qualities.
Oh, the page.
Is it at least cream?
No, it's just slightly brittle.
Shit. All right. It looks amazing though. Great colors on it.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't even look at that. I didn't even notice. I might not. I should have paid what I paid for it.
People love that book, man.
Here it is.
Lucy
Where is it?
Margate.
Oh, Margate. Yeah, that's very close. That's like the next town over from AC. Yeah.
I barely remember. I was pretty little, but we were there during the late 70s snowstorms, and we couldn't even get out of our house. The snowstorm was so high.
Late 70s. How old are you?
Old.
We're old. You don't look like you were even born yet.
Well,
in the late
74. So.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's like my total zone for comics is when I was 10 years old, because I was born in 64, and you know the spinner rack at 7-Eleven. You guys, I heard, do a spinner rack thing.
Yeah.
And that squeaky. I have 5 spinner racks in my store.
Nice.
Filled with different stuff, and you know
you got Hulk 181 on the stands that year, I think.
Oh yeah, I got Hulk 181. I got I remember one of the real, you know, kernels or acorns of what I do, you know, in my life is that the day Giant Size 1 came out, I was like, oh wow, and it was 50 cents. You know, that was kind of a chunk of my budget for the day. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one, and I bought 2 of them.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's
And then
funny.
later on, I bought the. Man, this is painful. This is very painful. But I briefly had the Storm origin page,
Oh,
the 2 Storm, where he finds her on that ritual little mound, and she's naked in the wind, and her hair's covering her.
Naked in the wind.
Yeah, naked in the
Naked in the wind.
I bought them for $1,000 and sold them for $2,000 and thought I was making money. Long time ago.
Yeah. Well, you did make money, and I'm sure you put into some other stuff, man. I'm sure you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you're. I'm sure you got some amazing pieces since then, man. It's exciting, dude. Because I saw that video you had. I don't know if you want to mention it or not, but it's a cool little just snippet about you and kind of a little of your history. But
Oh yeah. What platform did you see it on? Because that was done.
YouTube.
They approached me as that was like a commercial or content for that superfan.
yeah, it's not on YouTube. I don't know if you remember the YouTube channel is on, but
But it's kind of a Verizon commercial or something, right?
I didn't catch that. I mean, I was just so caught up in the story of you that I just didn't see the detail. But I recommend it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna find
Very-
it. I just watched it randomly like 3 days ago, so I'll see if I can get the details.
It was produced by Malka Malka Productions, and the director was a real sharp young man, and it was really, really professionally done, really, really well done. I was very happy about it. It's like a 3.5 minute portrait of me and my business, and it just represented me well. I was very pleased with it. I don't even care that I never got a check for it. They promised me.
That's funny. It's funny that you brought up the 10-year-old thing, because when I was 10, my first books I bought with my own money on my 10th birthday was Thor 337, 338, and 339, the Beta Ray Bill story. Not because of anything other than I wanted the Thor, because Silver Surfer 4 was my favorite cover. I was into comics, and I was into it.
How about the favorite interior ever?
Yeah, it's still the best book. I still compare that book. Now, here's something. I know that nobody knows where the original cover for that is, correct?
No, it's out.
Oh, is it in a private collection that I've never seen?
Yeah,
In 20
I know where it came from, and it had to get put back together. It needs some restoration, and then it's sold, and I don't know who owns it at this point, but yeah, it exists.
They used it in that book, one of those IDW books, so it's got to be.
Yeah, the Marvel Covers one.
Yes,
Is it Marvel Covers, wasn't it?
the IDW. I have that somewhere.
My 10-year-old, when I was 10, I got this.
Oh, sweet.
I remember buying the Secret Wars and getting really confused in the
Which
Secret
people
Wars.
your age, Anthony, usually hate that series.
What's that?
I find that older kids who may be close to your age usually hated Secret Wars. I thought it was really stupid. But as a real kid, it was cool.
I remember the other series, that other storyline about the champions, the contest of champions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was with the Thing. Yeah, that was a good one.
So let me ask you about art, if you don't mind. I just got a question here that I've been wondering. So I'm seeing a lot of art, obviously, and we all see it's going. A lot of it's being done digitally, and just you hear the story about comics all going digital, which I don't really think is going to necessarily happen, but maybe it will. But what's your thoughts on like long term, the amount of art that's going to be coming out, more of a traditional, avenue than we're seeing it with the,
Right. Last Tuesday I did Comic Art Fans Live with Bill Cox, and I brought on Scott Hanna, and we talked about that, as a prolific inker, and to what extent that he's basically does 90% of his jobs, over blue lines because of technology, and the pencil pages get, scans get sent to him, and he works over scans, but he still works over pencils with John Romita Jr. and Mark Bagley, because those are two guys that are traditional old school guys, and they feel like the product comes out better. There's more heart to it, and they have complete comic art to sell to the collector market, and it's worth it for them. I mean, I've spent untold amount of money with those two guys through their rep, and I just that's just where I'm at. I tend to avoid blue line pages. I mean, and people by there's a standard question: is this pencils and inks anymore? It's like, and if it's not, well, I say, well, it's priced accordingly, because I have bought a stack from Scott that was all blue lines, and but he's a great inker, so I thought it had some sort of intrinsic value, but it just still kind of lays flat on the page for me like that. And the more people that do it, they're undermining the collectability of the market in the long term. That's how I would summarize. My guys that I rep. One guy is a pencil and ink guy, and one guy is a painter, and they do their stuff. They don't do digital work. I mean, Esad does his paintings and does his covers for Marvel right now, and I can get many times what his cover rate is for the original art, in the collector market. So that's a great secondary income for him.
Are you finding that? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of artists, current art, sell pretty strong, for quite a few artists, especially painters. Do you find that having less artists do traditional art maybe helps push the value of some of these people who do, do more of a fine art aspect to it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, it shows the definite eye appeal of finished color art or the paintings that, for instance, Assad does, has great impact on the collectors that do spend that money. And, that's between $5,000 and $12,000, for Assad's paintings. So it has to have good eye appeal. It has to have impact. It has to have, that sort of like, wow, that's art, Yeah,
the piece that I have from Assad, my wife is the one who picked it out, and she says it kind of transcends the comic area. She allows it in the living room. So,
right? Because it's color.
Exactly.
It's color art. It's art, the black and white thing,
Now you got to get her to allow you in the living room. Come on, man.
People have to be woke to black and white art,
Exactly.
It really it does. I mean, it's a different thing,
Mm-hmm.
Some of the art.
That's why I have all this stuff behind me. It's like, it's just not this. I'm in my living room, and it's more color, and just besides my first black and white cover I ever acquired, that Bill Sienkiewicz I Am Spider art you can see in that corner.
Nice.
Oh,
Other than that, it's like, recreations, and that's, I'm a big Disney duck guy, and I love Carl Barks, and that is a Disney painted box cover art. It's pretty rare. It's from the 40s.
Yeah, Carl
like
Barks
that.
is really good. That's great. You got Carl Barks.
I remember when I sold my original comic book collection, I sold all my hero stuff off because that's what everybody wanted. But then there was one guy that wanted all my duck books, and I was like holding out, and I held out. I held out my duck books because those are the ones I loved the most.
That's cool. That's good. I like that. So that's like
Carl Barks is an underappreciated absolute genius. I mean, until they do. I was speaking to a producer at Disney once, and I'm like, what? if you're looking for something to do, he was saying that they were going to bring back DuckTales. So this was a couple years ago because they have brought back DuckTales. And I'm like, why don't you guys go in and adapt the Carl Barks stories? They're the greatest thing ever. And he's like, oh, that's such a great idea. You know, that, yeah, I should bring that up at a meeting or something. But
we had one of our other guys.
Did he do the serials as well, like in the papers, or did he only do comics? Or because it's sometimes
no, he wrote featured comic stories. Yeah. Okay. No, he didn't do the newspaper strips. A guy named Al Taliaferro did. He was in charge of the newspaper strips. He never did. The newspaper strips. Or Barks.
You know, they usually
the Golden Helmet. That's an amazing one. That's a great one.
It's a great one. Yeah, this book series has a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, one of the guys who appears on our show sometimes has every of the Carl Barks volumes of every book, and when he gets a chance to talk to Don Rosa about Carl Barks, it's just, you know, they go on and on.
Yeah, Don's like the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, he's
in those old streets, those Barks Duck books and Disney books, you know, were top 10, top 20 for a while. Do you think, I mean, what do you think about that? Is it just going to keep dropping, or is there a bottom that it just probably will stay at? I don't know. Just curious.
It has its following. I mean, there's still a tremendous following in Europe where original material is still being produced and has great circulation over there in Northern Europe. But I guess for this country, it had its time. You know, it's past. When I was a kid, it was still big because the first generation of comic collectors, they loved that stuff and they read it, and you know, that was in the 40s. You know, that 40s generation, the guys that read that, and those were the guys that had the comic book stores at the time, you know, and I was just a kid. So I was interested in hero stuff, first of all, and Marvel, and like artists I were attracted to in DC. You know, it had to be like Neil Adams. It had to be like Nick Cardy, cool covers. You know, those were my two favorite type of guys if I was going to pick up DC books. But by the time I was 12, with just wheeling and dealing when I was a kid, I had an entire Silver Age collection. I had every Marvel and every DC one-up. You know, I was pretty proud about that. Nice. Didn't have an AF-15 though. That was the one thing I didn't have.
Did you have the chance, or what did you think of Golden Age comics back then?
This was in Las Vegas, and there was only a small supply of Golden Age stuff. There really wasn't a lot of Golden Age around in Vegas. There was Silver Age, you know, and I was able to put my Silver Age collection together, and that's what I was most interested in because, you know, this is in 73, 74, 75. So the continuities were still together. You know, if it said back in issue 66, Rascally Roy, you know, you were interested in like, oh, yeah, what happened in 66? And that actually worked for me. That made me want to collect back issues and be a completist. And I had my checklist, and I would check every time I got a book that I didn't have, you know, I would fill that in, and I was obsessive about that. You know, so I have the love and the nostalgia and the heart for it. And one of the reasons why is because visually, I was always a visual person, and the art attracted me. And I ended up becoming a visual artist and a professional visual artist as a photographer in the advertising industry in New York. And I feel like comics were a big part of developing my visual vocabulary.
I want to touch on
huge thing missing. Sorry, a huge thing missing from comics ever since. Like I stopped when I went to college, and then when I went back in the like late '90s or 2000s, there was no more like continuity, and it was just like if you missed stuff, it didn't really matter. feel like it mattered anymore. And not like the old days where it was like, the little subtext was like, Fantastic Four number 66. You missed it, you bum. Like, where were you?
Yeah.
That. It was so cool. Like, and I feel like that's kind of a sad thing to have lost that, but I don't think there's any going back unless they reboot or something.
I can't even imagine trying to keep up right now with all the different titles, let alone just X-Men, FF. Like,
Well,
it's
I don't even think they try.
No, it seems like instead of
six
just
issues and that's it. That continuity's gone. Let's move on. Let's do something else. Oh, he died and now he's back.
Yeah, here's FF 600. Why don't we jump up to FF number 2 and then to another FF different than number 8, and then we'll jump back to number FF 501. It's like, dude, how do you keep up crossing over all these areas? I mean, the continuity is just wackadoo, and to keep the storyline going, you're like, how does a collector do you manage
Is there
to
continuity? That's what I go into this comic, but I don't carry new issues in my stores. I mean, because I don't want to keep up with it, and I don't want to try to order stuff that's going to sell and then get stuck with the stuff that doesn't sell and stuff like that. I mean, those stores sell me those boxes for $40-$50, and but I look at the wall and I'm like, I just look for where's Essad's covers, that I can just put with the art I have, or where's it's just a mess visually. You can't say like, oh, this one belongs to that one. There's nothing about it that's appealing in that regard.
Yeah, I mean,
why I went to comic shops was to get the whole the idea of somehow being able to find these old issues was a huge...
Right, be a collector.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big completist for Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange, and Thor for my 3 cat characters. So even now, keeping up with Doctor Strange, which was always the easiest one for me to do, is a lot harder. I mean, since the Barry Kitson Mark Waid ended, it starts this other one. Now, Thor is almost impossible to keep track of, but I'm able to try to do it. But you're right about continuity. It's writers and artists don't stick together. The days of Mark Bagley and Sal Buscema and everybody doing 30, 40, 50, 100 issue runs is well gone. Now it's 5 issues and out. I ended up just going back to getting all the old What If comics and going with one shots that I never thought were that popular. I went back and got those from the 80s and 90s. And started getting
that first run of What If. Some of those stories are great. Those are great stories. Yeah,
I mean, they're really good. They get crazy.
That's right on the edge of where I stopped.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the first time you ever bought a Golden Age book? Yeah,
I do remember that. It was like a very early con get together, and the artist for Captain Marvel was there.
CC Beck?
Which artist? Yeah, it was CC Beck. Oh my God, I had a blockage. And yeah, CC Beck was there, and I went and I bought 2 Captain Marvels from a comic dealer for him to sign.
Oh, cool.
And that was my first Golden Age experience right there, because I was like, oh wow, cool.
And did he sign the inside?
No, yeah, the old guys, they respected the cover. They didn't want to sign on the cover. They would sign on the indicia page, the first white page.
Most of my signed Buscema comics I got were always signed on the first page. And everybody said, why did you get him to sign the cover? I'm like, you didn't do that back then. We didn't have CGC. We didn't care. We opened up the book. We read it. Yeah. Well,
they didn't want to deface the cover. They felt like that was actually, damaging the cover. It's funny. I have a Daredevil 1. I have a Daredevil 1 signed by Stan in the 80s, and it's signed on that first page in ballpoint pen. I always love his ballpoint signature, because the first Stan Lee did a speaking engagement in Las Vegas when I was 10 years old, and I was sitting in the front row with a microphone recording the whole thing, and I still have the tape. the cassette tape from it. It still works, and I wanted to get it duped over. And he was talking about how he was hungover and sorry he was late, and but I have a signed my signed ticket from it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
John Byrne.
Oh, there's John Byrne still signing on there. Yeah, that's late. That's like that was 80 what?
83, I think. 84. 83, yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, you got some of your art hung up there, man.
Yeah.
And I always have a question. It's like, how do you displaying art in a frame format in a room? Like, is there like a quick breakdown of what is the best way to help not damage your art if you want to display it, or certain art you should not display anyway in general if it's a certain medium? I mean, I'd love to know some thoughts on that.
Well, as you can see, I one of my guys actually that works for me does my framing for me. He's a very talented guy. He's good with his hands. He's a musician, and I have a default to a white mat with a black wood frame. Everything I have is just done that way. And
what about like UV glass and any, like, you hear about that all the time?
I don't. Yeah, I just try to keep. I don't keep them in direct sunlight anywhere. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's no direct light that hits this wall. I'm in the corner of my living room, and it's a lot of color stuff because it's family friendly. It's my wife friendly, and it's like a lot of the big pieces I don't keep on the wall like that. I used to have a lot of like big covers on the wall in here, but I've been forced to do deals with them over the years. When people made me offers I couldn't refuse.
Now, did you we hear something about a cover? Is that Chamber of Chills 19 really going up for sale? That cover?
That's what I heard.
So I'm thinking, just offhand on auction, premium included, let's say, it breaks 150, but I don't think it breaks 200. Again, it's a medium. It's Chamber of Chills. Comic fans love it, yes. But art, a lot of times art has to transcend who it is. It's like my opinion on the Thunder #7. Yes, the art collector is going to collect that because it's a great Frazetta cover, and it's the first cover there. But it's not Tarzan. Tarzan sells more. It's one of those things. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, Tarzan would have more pedestrian appeal, but not to the art collector.
Right.
There's status in the art community and there's status in the general community. I think one of the huge things, you brought, we were talking before about how there's going to be 101 guests about Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Why now, as Walking Dead goes back 10 years plus now, is that at shows, most of the pre-code horror guys that are collecting this stuff and driving price points on this stuff are younger guys in their 20s. I have a ton of these guys that are, I'm into horror. Well, they grew up on Walking Dead. They're into horror. It's like it sprouted a whole new generation of horror fans and horror comics. Very fertile market.
I never thought that Tony Moore's art would have led to people collecting Graham Ingles. That's great.
I would think 30 Days of Night helped spawn a lot of horror too. That was huge for a lot of people. That comic.
Spawn?
30 Days of Night. Huge.
But are they driving it up now that it's not as much as a undervalued? Because sometimes, in the golden age, you'll see cycles where like things are undervalued, and then that people, flippers or whoever, anyone flocks to those cheaper. And now that it's not undervalued, do you think that that's going to just continue to rise, or
the Chamber of Chills 19?
Well, just horror, pre-code horror.
No, I think there's a big base for it now. Based on this whole generation of collector that's grown up with The Walking Dead and has translated it into other mediums. Like that 30 Days a Night. What's the opening splash, page 1?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
He wakes up in the hospital.
30 Days of Night or Walking Dead?
Both.
Same one?
Both.
Yeah. That piece went for sale too, not too long ago. That's right.
Yeah. I was offered that. I think that came out of a collection in Brooklyn that I knew that guy, and but I could never pull the trigger on what he wanted for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that top-down shot of Rick in the hospital bed.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the 50 or the atomic age specifically is pretty appealing to a lot of people. I think it's a nice in-between of where you don't have to go to the golden age like superhero stuff, because really, like, when you go to the early golden age, most of the most appealing stuff is generally going to be the superhero for collectability. But you go to the atomic age, you can hit up on sci-fi, you can hit up on horror, you can hit up on war now. War's been extremely hot. There's a lot of interest there that is still kind of violent and appealing and still almost scientific in space that just, I think, almost crosses over, because like Aliens, for example, it's like a sci-fi horror, so it's almost, there's a lot of appeal to like 48 to 55 for books,
So what's your guess on that Chamber Chills cover, Anthony? Final Hammer. What do you think that the cover will go for?
There are certain variables that I don't want to really talk about right now. But, in the interest of being politically correct here.
I say,
but I mean, auctions are. Let's put it this way. It's politically correct. Auctions depend about who's interested in it, and if there's a certain person interested in it that's going to drive up the price, it can be driven up.
Yeah,
to the stratosphere. It can be driven up to, if you feel like, oh wow, that didn't sell for much, then that certain person wasn't interested in it and didn't give it action.
Like that.
You know what I mean?
The more iconic the cover, the more likely that said people might be interested, right?
Do you find that any restoration done to comic covers is a negative, or is it a positive for comics?
For art?
For art. I mean, since they're one of a kind, if you had to do stuff to restore it or preserve it, does it really affect the value of a book? Or so used to saying books, of art.
For me, out of the thousands and thousands of pieces that I've had, it's very rare that condition comes into it. Because most of the stuff was usually stored flat in a dark place. You know what I mean? But if I remember, I owned the Hulk 180 cover, and it was so full of whiteout that Ramita had corrected almost everything on it. That it did. The eye appeal was just shot for me, and I did it, even though it was like, first cameo and all that. I did it. I ended up dealing it, and because it had so much whiteout on it. It was basically a whiteout cover, and it just didn't have good eye appeal. So, I mean, if there's a situation, it's basically a demarcation. It's a line. If there's an issue that distracts your eye, then that affects the value to you. I mean, it's like if something has brittle pages, you're like, F it. I'm not interested. That brittle page is like, will kill it for you. But if a piece, has a defect that distracts your eye to such an extent, that affects value. But it's rare. It's hard.
Like an example of that, perfect example is an awesome condition of a great iconic cover of Superman or something, where there's a big black mustache or like monocle on his eye or something, and you just can't.
I had
Like in the art, in the actual produced art, or somebody just drew that shit on.
Someone drew it on there, and just something
That's happened.
Can't really get it.
Yeah, I had Tales to Astonish 27 that someone drew over the Hank Pym, like hanging there. It drew all over his face and I couldn't make a decision on it. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna slab it and sell it. I just couldn't stand. I love the character of Hank Pym, but I just couldn't stand it anymore. I'm like, I can't stand the look of this ink on the guy's face. It's just so bad. I have some of the art conditioned. That's a good point you brought up. I found that when I bought pieces of art about 15, 20 years ago, I had 3 pieces where the corners were cut. Was that pretty common? Like they would put into like the just slight corner cuts to put them in.
Yeah. They used to call that bulldogging it, and it would the production photographer where they would photograph it, make the stat. He would make some have like actual punch holes, some have a cut corner and stuff like that, and it would be like however he kind of set up his base to photograph the art. That would be a way to speed up things, so it'd be in the exact same spot, and they would shoot and when they shot it, it would be the and that's that same spot in the same focal plane, and it would save time, aligning it just perfectly and being in focus. So that was common. Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect example.
That's exactly what I have on a few pieces. Yeah,
and then that's
Jim
Is
Starr.
that a Kirby page?
Kirby, yeah.
From Losers or
Machine Man Kirby.
G-Man?
Machine Man.
Oh, Machine Man. Oh, okay. I saw a bunch of soldiers. Yeah, cool.
But it's weird. It's only on the top. I always wondered about that.
Yeah, because they'd slide that in, and he'd have it in. All those brown stains are actually fingerprints from the guy. The photographer is like actually shooting it and then putting the film into the developer, and those brown stains are from his hands being in developer and then touching that paper again. They didn't care, So those brown stains or those brown fingerprints is developer that the guy had on his hands that he was touching the paper, and going, just doing his job as fast as he could, and I'm sure those guys are all gone, having their hands in developer all day.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Can you say anything about...
that's a production guideline that, making sure everything got done, and, they would cross off what got done. That had been copied, that the stats were all good and went to coloring, and that there was a comics code of approval person that, checked it off and approved it page by page. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. You don't often see that.
I was gonna ask. So sometimes
I want to show.
Sometimes when I find something like I found this piece, I found the back of it to be. Have you ever looked at sometimes the back of the art has like sketches on the back, and and I never knew about this when I had this piece. And I took it out to frame it, and I had an extra overlay was somehow attached to this that didn't belong with the book, so I pulled that off. And on the back of it has all these Buscema sketches of a hound dog and horses, and he's just messing around. You can tell.
A little blurry. I love that stuff. That's my favorite. I have pages that are just full of those. What he would do for warm-ups.
Yeah, and that's warming up on the back of a real page of his art.
Is that the Surfer Frankenstein issue?
No, this is Doom 2099 number 40. This is page.
Oh, that's the Doom one. Yeah. You talked about that. How you trying to put that together?
Every page for. Yeah, I've got 3 of them so far.
Well, one of the things I have stuffed in my books is like what I thought to be the last Conan page that John ever did. from that miniseries.
Yep.
And then the last Surfer page he ever did from Devour.
Yeah,
I have those 2 end pages, yeah. And I felt like, oh, that was cool. These are the last pages of Conan and Surfer that John ever did
Nice.
that I kept.
That's good.
You know, have the love.
Well, what other book
That's
did
where
you-
it started from. It was all about the love of collecting and the characters and the source material. And, you know, when I got into 8th grade, I kind of left it behind because I got really into sports. And I played football and basketball into college. And then when I settled down and met my wife, that's where I started collecting comics again. So I had to calm down and get in touch with my inner nerd, my inner nostalgic guy, and made a business out of it.
Yeah. Now you do have a lot of Golden Age comics that you have on your page.
Man, I have
tons of them. Yeah. Dark Mysteries.
I have
comics.
my living room is full of stuff right now, and I just got a nice deal in Friday.
So show us.
Can I show you these?
Oh yeah.
Did you get 34? Did you get 34?
Nice.
Let me see.
What's the
Adventure
grade?
34.
99.
You got some grades on that earlier adventure comic?
43.
We're the worst group for this.
I know we are.
We're like, what do you got?
I'm just gonna PM you some.
It looks pretty, like a solid 5.0, 5.5.
Nice.
The boat sinking one.
Yeah.
Yep,
And there's a
43.
Simon and Kirby cover.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
a great one. Yep.
And then, this is, I don't know, man. Are we in trouble for selling this stuff at this point?
No.
I don't think so anymore. No.
With,
I know but it was what it is. You know?
what was his name? Whitewash Moonshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some racist stuff on here, but I mean, that's part of the, the
that was
culture
it.
of it. Oh, I got something here. Hey, jungle girl guy.
What do you got? LB Cole. Nice
He's
LB Cole.
glowing in the jungle.
There
Hey
you
man,
go.
if you want to do a claim sale right now, throw out some grades and prices. We'll get you going, dude. Man.
I showed my wife this. I wanted her to get a zebra print one piece and cosplay as that.
Nice. That's my wife is. We're gonna go as an elephant cover both one day. We're gonna do it. Yeah. She's into it. She's done it. Please, woman
This
was
is
great
cool.
2 years in a row.
Yeah,
You ever-
Dick
You
Briefer.
guys get into this kind of
Yeah.
the older.
I like when he gets more dark.
He
Frankenstein.
starts towards like issue, I think 21 and 22 get really dark on that Frankenstein run.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
That's some great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I even like this. I mean, like I got 3 of these in this deal. Miss
Miss-
America,
There's
Yeah,
one
number
that's
2?
first Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
right?
There's
Does
one
it
that's
gotta look-
first Marilyn Monroe. Is that?
And
It's a
number
Miss
2 is
America.
a key issue.
Yeah. I have one out of an antique shop around the corner has one. It's got cigar burns on it. It was held in an old Treasure Comics guest book. Nice. That's a
Yeah,
good
it's kind of a horror cover with this kind of giant gremlin coming destroying the city.
one.
Do you have any
American
there you go.
gangsters.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
that
you.
gangsters. Was that a Baker Gangsters? I thought he did
Matt
one.
Baker?
Is that a Baker cover just now? He did
Wow,
one.
it's pretty enough. It's really nice. It's number 3.
Yeah, let's show it to the camera. Let's take a look at it.
We could probably get to is that a big. Let me look at the
Oh,
hair.
no, I thought it was a
Look at
different
the-
one. I don't think that's it. I'm sorry. I thought it was a different one.
That's
That's a cool cover,
The
though.
girl looks could be.
Any dynamic
Chambers.
Cheslers or foxes you got there? Or centaurs?
centaurs.
You like centaurs?
Yeah.
Headline.
Oh, you got a headline 8 hiding over there? That'd be awesome.
14. Look at this. This is nice. For a jungle collector.
Oh,
Yeah.
There you go.
You have a all-story,
that's it.
all-story
That's the first
book?
one. That's awesome.
It is.
Is there a story?
Do you have a
what?
Is there a story behind this collection you just got in?
I'm pretty, well known of the collectors in the area, and the guy needed to raise money to buy a Cap 1, so he came and sold me some good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Basically, so there's a.
What's the grade on that guy? A 1.5. That's a great cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a chunk out of the top. You see?
Yeah, I see it. I used to have that. Ugh, regret letting it go.
Space Adventures, Adventure. Oh, Shocking Mystery. That'll be cool. Kind of a floating heads thing.
Yep. Will all this stuff be on your site soon?
Yeah, the loose stuff. I was gonna have them put it up today, but I came home with it instead.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few really nice slabs. Let me see if I can find it. That was in this deal. See that one?
Oh, I thought it was Weird Mysteries. Nice. DS, check that out.
Get his Cap 1.
Yes, he did the deal for it. Yeah,
Nice.
he did the deal for it.
Does he regret selling all those?
No, I think he loves this stuff. So I mean, he's getting he's getting the best thing out there. There was a slab of Steve Ditko's first cover he ever did.
Like in comics or in a title? Like a Thing 12 or...
Yeah, Thing 12. That's it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Here's one of them.
What's the grade on that one? Wow. What do you have on that guy? Man.
That's a pretty book.
Oh, you just froze
And
up.
it's a 5.5.
Yeah, what are you asking on that cat?
600.
Oh, man, I'll take it. Sold.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Yeah, put aside for-
All right, PayPal me, Anthony@AnthonySnyder.com.
You got
It'll
it.
go out tomorrow.
It's already
All right.
saved on my PayPal for some reason.
Well, I got a lot of mouths to feed, so.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, well, look at that.
Who asked for Centaurs?
Old
Look at
label
that.
and then an actual
For Centaurs.
Centaur.
Not that
Actual
Centaur.
all flash Centaur.
That's so funny.
Oh, you weren't asking for the actual characters, but imprint?
Yeah,
Pull out
the
the
title or the publisher.
pull out the 1940. Pull out the early timelies.
Your wish is my command.
Yeah, Mystic.
Come on, now you're holding out. There you go.
It's too fast.
The Marvel Comics.
Okay,
78, 6.5.
that's a little too modern for me.
That's too modern?
Yeah,
For him, yeah. He, if it's
1940 pre-war.
pre-war, he ends at the war.
Okay, this is like one of the great war covers of all time. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they're just killing the Japanese soldiers in every way you can imagine.
Yep.
Coming out of the cave.
Good old young allies.
Yep.
There's a bomb, there's a flamethrower, there's a bazooka, there's a machine gun,
Wow.
dynamite, flames.
That's awesome.
That was in this
41 there.
Oh, here's cool. Mystic. Very, it says slight restored, let's see, conservative, spine's foot sealed to cover. That's it.
That's
Oh.
it.
And it's a 9.0.
9-0.
Is it professional or amateur? Does it say?
Yeah, professional conservation, spine's foot sealed. That's it.
Nice.
So what if you take that off and it becomes what, an 8?
Who knows? I know people love those Jeep covers too. I don't see that one too often. This is great
And
stuff.
another Young Allies.
Yeah.
Nice.
Schomburg, I think, again. Yeah, definitely Schomburg again.
Nice.
So this guy, if he
So-
gave you all these, that means he must have A lot of really nice ones that he didn't get rid of.
Another thing.
Oh, what number is that? Oh,
I
that's
did call him back today.
that's the 12. That's the 12.
Yeah, that's the 12.
What do you have on that
The
one?
first Ditko.
That's the 12 I was talking about. The other one, I don't know what number you showed me.
I marked it 1700.
Woo-wee! All right, that was the one I was looking for. I'll pass on the other one. I thought you were asking for this one, but that's a cool.
That's a ridiculous cover.
It is, man. I loved his horror stuff better than I liked his Spidey stuff. Yes, I said it. I don't like Ditko Spidey.
Hey, I like Ditko's Doctor Strange better than I like anything he did.
Yeah, Doctor Strange was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book just had a really strong sale of late, man. That's a good book.
Mm.
Yeah.
1500 and I'll
First
take it.
published Steve Ditko story.
Man,
Come
that's
on.
Some old vampire hags killing beautiful blondes. Why?
What year was that?
ridiculous.
54.
Okay, yeah.
Pre-code. He got a pre-code in there.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. It's Charlton, and then he did Marvel, and then went back to Charlton.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Most of the Charltons in the 60s, he did a ton, yeah.
Yeah, you can still get relatively cheap Ditko art from Charlton. You know, large pages, $1,000, $2,000 range.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're Charlton?
Yeah, because they're not Marvel.
I don't see them come up a lot. As a fan, I don't see a lot of Atlas Seaboard anymore. Did somebody swallow all that stuff up, or is that still around, floating around? Atlas Seaboard,
like pre-hero Atlas pages.
Yeah, no, Atlas Seaboard from the.
You're talking about the '70s Atlas comics, like Vampire Hunter or whatever it's called.
Oh, Iron Jaw and that
yeah, Scorpion and those are good stuff. I don't know why people don't.
I'm actually friends with Jeff Rovin, who's a very accomplished writer now at this point of his life. But he was the editor of all those books. He was the Jeff Rovin. Yeah,
I thought they were like.
I get along with him. He was moving out to Connecticut, and he called me over to his house, and I bought his magazine collection because he didn't want to move with it. You know.
Oh,
I have a couple.
That was a good day.
Original art questions. If you got the time for it.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm awake.
All right.
I'm woke.
What are I always wonder about this. Now, people talk about art being destroyed back in the day, and they talk about it being like no one's ever seen it, or it's with the person's relative. It'll never come up. But I'm curious, or like it's in the Library of Congress, so you'll never get it. But I was curious, are there certain top 25 covers or whatever pages that are known to be non-existent, or does everything it might be there, or like what are the big things that are like have never shown up, or I don't know. I'm just curious about that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a line of demarcation where, like, okay, the earliest known twice up Marvel cover is the Thor annual, and that's the earliest one known. And that one was like the paneled one with Hercules on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now, you know, back in the day, the covers were going to World Color to be produced, and then the interiors were being produced in a different factory. Okay. The stuff that went to World Color, they threw out.
Oh.
It's gone.
So like Fantastic #1.
It's all gone.
Amazing Fantasy cover. Gone.
We have no chance of ever getting those covers. They were thrown out. They never came back to the Marvel office. So the pages, they would come back in envelopes, and they thought that they might need them or make stats of them. You know, DC would make stats of them and want to throw the original art out, not give it back to the creators, because
No.
not letting. Are you there?
Yeah.
DC was more about not letting any sort of doubt creep in that the creators had any rights to the characters. So they would destroy it rather than open themselves up to, oh, that guy, he did, that he has the art. He was the creator. He deserves a better share of the profits or rights to the character or stuff like that. So their legal department had DC destroy them, destroy stuff, just absolutely destroy stuff. I know a guy that told me the story. His first job, he went up to DC and they said, here, we want you to destroy these pages. His first job, as an intern at DC, was destroying pages. So there was one of those big cutters, you cut paper cutters with the wheels, and the wheel was the cutter. So he would, I won't say who, but he would cut them in the panel lines, and then throw them out like that in a pile, and then go back to the garbage so he could tape them back together, and they'd be whole pages, and he saved some like that. Nice. So, there's stories of like that, and there's story. There was a whole palette of art that was being stored and brought back to DC at one point, probably to be destroyed, but it disappeared off the street in Manhattan. So there was thousands of pages, and then the next little Comic-Con that happened in New York, there was all this DC art. There was all this DC art selling for $5, twice up flash pages and stuff like that.
So
yeah, that's the one.
That's the annual.
That came out in June 1st, 1965. So you're saying every Marvel cover before that
has never been seen.
Well, I thought you said it was the earliest twice up cover art. There's no earlier Marvel.
Yeah, well, that's the earliest twice up. Yeah. But they went to small, regular size, basically around 67, 68, where the technology got better and they could work smaller. Some guys still like to work bigger, but other guys, thought that they could work faster in a smaller format.
And I heard the stories of in the Timely offices about if there was a leak or whatever, they would just use the old pages to put on the floor to not step in the water. And what about
once they, you see, there's this crazy example of how little that the companies thought about the art. That you see an Archie cover, it's common with the Archie titles. There were so many of them, right? They were the largest circulating imprint at the time. So you have this piece of art, and where the title was they just tore it off, twice up cover, and it was just be torn across the top. And that worthless stat that said Archie Comics was worth more to them than that piece of art. They didn't want to have to, spend 50 cents on having another stat made or something like that. So they would tear off the title to use it again on the next book and just destroy their art, just damage and destroy their art. And, then there was that time, Carmen Infantino, if you wrote a letter in and they published it, they would send you a piece of art from DC, and sometimes a whole story. There have been whole stories that have come out, whole Infantino stories, his own art. And when he was in charge of it, he would send it out. So, he, as the editor and the guy that was in charge of this stuff, valued it so little that he would send it out to somebody who wrote a fan letter in. A whole story.
You get Infantino, Phantom Stranger, the whole run, easily could have been done. It was 1972, 71.
So what pieces are probably known to exist, but you haven't seen them, and if you think they would be the top most pieces, most expensive pieces ever. Like, you know, Hulk 181 cover, obviously.
Supposedly it got destroyed, but you know.
Wasn't it started in a fire or something with some artwork?
Yeah, Len Wein garage then burnt up, and
I heard that
maybe not. I mean, maybe it's buried into some super rich collection that never has to be shown. You know.
Do you think outside of like Frazetta paintings, there's any $1 million original art pieces
that would be? I think that would be Hulk 181. Wouldn't that be $1 million?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
that we know exists. I
think the
interior Cap 100 is out there. I don't think it hit $1
Oh
million.
yeah, Cap 100 sold in past 10 years. That sold, right?
I can't remember, but I'm just trying to think.
One of my favorite pieces. I remember the where that came from. It came out of Las Vegas. Yeah.
Here's the debate that we have.
Tom Horvitz had it. I know he was an old-time dealer, and that was his favorite piece, and he parted with it recently, and it came up for auction.
So I
guess the one thing there is a rumor. Okay. I'll put it out there because the source of where it was doesn't exist anymore, but I was told by two different people about Avengers 4 pages.
The interior Kirby art?
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. The person that supposedly had them passed away, and then you lose track of how to try to track them down, but one of the guys that saw them were guys that were working artists. And he said, yeah, I saw the page with Steve Rogers laying on the slab with all the Avengers standing over him. Now, that's too specific to make up.
Yeah.
So that's an eyewitness account of he had seen that page. So, and I tried, but unsuccessfully.
Nice. You're showing the piece. Okay, there it is. That Frazetta.
I say $1 million.
You think it goes for $1 million? I said no way.
Yeah.
I say $500,000 at the most. It's not a Death Eater that's 23 by 30 painted art. It's black and white. I mean, I just don't see it getting the $1 million.
It's a great piece, but I would. I mean, you see that in a $200,000 to $300,000 range.
Yeah, I mean $1 million piece in comic art.
Those are crazy.
All right, you know that in the page 180 that has the Wolverine on it, that sold in 2014 at Heritage for $500,000. I would
just under, right, 470 something, I think.
Exactly, and I've always.
You know the story behind that?
No,
you know the story behind that?
You got it free, right? You got it from him.
Yeah, this guy just happened to be driving by near Herb Trimpe's house and stopped by as a fan to say, "Hey, I just love your work." And the guy's leaving, and Herb says, "Just a second," and he hands him that page. So that book, the 180 book. There was just a couple pages up on Heritage in the last Platinum auction. I was bidding on them.
Okay.
Where the witch was summoning Wendigo.
Oh, okay.
I really wanted that page, yeah. But I stalled out.
Do you remember when?
But that's why 180 was incomplete. But it was together because Herb dumped his stuff to a dealer for like $5 a page back in the day. And he resented dealers ever since,
Hulk 180 is also the first time Hulk falls in love with refried beans.
Nice.
It's refried beans.
Oh, I remember that page. He crushes the plate and shovels them, right?
Yeah, he's just like, I think it was 180, right? Yeah, it wasn't 182, it was 180. Right? He's sitting there with the guy in the woods and
Do you remember?
Sorry.
Do you remember about 15 years ago? I think when the Swamp Thing 1 pages went up for sale. It was something like that, and Bernie was still alive, and they weren't going for what I thought. And people were saying if that like they weren't breaking $1,000 to $2,000 a page. Now they'd be ridiculous. I mean, I always say that first time that those books sold for $1,000, $1,200 a page, that's what they were selling them for. I mean, like nowadays, a Swamp Thing Writes and page start at $9,000. You know, if it had Swamp Thing, start at $9,000.
Do you have any artists right now that you think, like, maybe top 5 artists that we should be looking at for the future, or that you find right now are just maybe worth keeping an eye on or getting a piece from?
Well, my favorite artist is Esad because, I mean, he really is, though, because I just seeing him work in person, seeing him work. There it is.
Yep.
Nice. I told you that was a nice big piece that would fill up your wall.
A lot bigger than I
you got a great deal on that.
It did. Thank you very much.
Great deal on that one. I love Esad's work. I mean, you can, but art is like food. It's different for everybody. What
was the first piece of art you bought?
The first piece of art I got?
Yeah.
I started out helping Mike Carbonaro at shows. This is even before the church shows. Were you you guys ever at the church shows? No?
I heard
the church basement shows?
Can you do a Carbonaro impression real quick?
You want to do it? I've had enough of him in my life. I don't really need it. Oh my God. He came over this weekend and just wouldn't leave.
We were talking about how he was hardworking, though. One of the hardest.
Oh, man. It's a silver streak, dude.
Are you going to do the impression, or do you have a wig?
I wondered if you had one of them.
Oh, no. Now, let me finish this story.
Yeah.
Anyway, I helped him for like a 4-day Javits show, like the year before it was canceled. And I got out of it, like he was going to give me $100 a day in trade. And I got a Journey into Mystery 83 that was really nice, and a Hulk page. And it was a Sal Buscema Hulk page. They had 2 Hulks fighting, and one Hulk punches the other, and he turns into cotton balls or something. And I still have it.
That's cool.
And like one of the next shows I did, that Sienkiewicz cover I have on the wall behind me, I traded it. This is where art was at the time. I gave Conrad Eschenberg $500 in comics for that cover.
I mean,
he had one little milk crate of art in the midst of his comics. Art was just not a force like it is now. There was nothing.
When did that happen? The spike.
It was a slow burn. Yeah, it was a slow burn to catching fire and
I remember going to cons, even in the late 90s, maybe even early 2000s, where you could still thumb through a bunch of Kirby's, and they were $375.
Yeah,
$400 maybe.
No, cheaper than that.
So many, because he did so
I remember the first San Diego I ever went to, Thibodeau, and Jack had just passed away. And Roz Kirby was sitting there in a wheelchair, and he had a table full of complete stories. And this was all the 70s stuff, the Fourth World stuff and Captain America and stuff like that. And Commandy, that I loved. I love Commandy, and the complete stories were $2,000. They were $100 a page.
Yeah.
And if they had a cover, then they were $2,500. And I had just done a deal for the Spider-Man 149 cover, the clone issue. the two Spider-Man swinging at each other. And so that was my budget, and I didn't have any more cash on me. And I walked up to Thibodeau and I asked, "Do you take checks?" And he's like, "No, I don't take checks." So I couldn't buy one.
Yeah, I think back then you could still buy Miller pages for like under $1,000.
Oh yeah. They were
paid $40 for a What If page, my first one in 1995, because it had all the characters on it. They were in the What If, but it was Sam De La Rosa, and he's standing right there, and he's like, "Okay, I'll do this." And it was right then there. He signed it right there, and he was
yeah.
MC Wyman was to the left of him, and they're like, "We did that one," and they start talking about it. And I just thought it was cool because it had everybody on it. What if? So, Anthony, we have about 10 minutes left. You're going to be on Comic-Con. You're going to be on Main.
Lost a tooth.
Aww.
I lost a tooth.
There you go.
Good job.
Special night. Good for you.
That looks like a $10 tooth to me.
Tell the fairy to bring original comic art.
I'm going to stick a page underneath your pillow tonight, little girl.
There you go. So Anthony, you're going to be on main.
Adorable. How cute is that girl?
She's pretty cute. Thankfully,
except for mom. Sure.
Usually, at least one of our kids shows up during the show every episode. Usually, it's mine, but they're quiet right now.
My son's playing Fortnite.
So
yeah, my guys, that's all they do.
Yeah. So
try to get them out of the house as much as possible, and then you're told by the government to not leave the house, and it's like, ugh. Things weren't easy around here. Things weren't easy in North Jersey. I mean, we had major problems around here, so we were lucky to get through it.
My family, my parents in their 80s.
Coming back now?
What's that?
Is it coming back? Spiking up?
No,
again?
things are very stable around here. It kind of like there was this one story where in New Rochelle there was an infected Orthodox Jewish family, and they came over to Teaneck, which is the town next to me, to a bar mitzvah, and that spread it all around Teaneck and into Bergen County where I live. And that's where Bergen County became like a hot spot. And, there's two people I know whose parents passed away, lost a parent and another uncle. And my wife had a friend who was a nurse that brought it home, and her husband got very sick. He was hospitalized. And it was bad, but it seems like, the really bad strain of it left here and went west.
Yeah,
It
was only 2 miles away from me in Seattle area where that whole nursing home exploded.
Same, it's right down the street.
Wow, the nursing homes took it really bad. Yeah,
it was frightening. It's like I felt like we were living in some zombie outbreak, center or something. They're gonna nuke us.
The parents of the people I knew that were in nursing homes that passed from the disease.
Yeah, my parents.
But things are getting better around here. Fortunately, I was able to not shut down my business because we were doing mail order the whole time. And that was, by the grace of God, it was prosperous for all of us in a way that we didn't, I didn't lose my business. I didn't have to shut down my business, and I was able to provide for the people that work for me and not lay anybody off. And eBay's and online sales were up 100%. So that was, I have a lot to be grateful for, and because of my payroll, and I was qualified for payroll protection, and that worked out for me as well. So I have to be grateful, But the worst thing about it is not being able to travel through, because I should have just finished San Diego and been in Texas now, because I do the Texas Triangle on the way back. I do San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas, and then we head home from there. So, that trip means, a lot to me monetarily, the amount of business I do every year. Yeah. So that's a big hit. The shows, not being able to do shows is a big, big hit for me. Because nobody did more shows. Nobody does more shows than I do in my business. Nobody does more show days than I do, period. Because I love the action.
What about Harley Yee?
Dude, on my trip, I would go to Arizona, in Phoenix we do a pop-up, in Las Vegas do a pop-up, we'd go over to John Dalmayan's show in LA, but I was doing Sunday before San Diego pop-ups for the past 7-8 years. Nice. I was having my own, I'd rent a conference room at a hotel in West Hollywood at the Ramada Inn down there. And, I would do great. And the first time I did it, there's a funny story. I just unloaded my truck on the sidewalk with all my inventory, all my art inventory. And 3 customers came, but I did $20,000 that day. And I was like, oh, that's great. I was like, that's like a day in San Diego. But on the sidewalk in West LA, and I was three customers, 3 guys came by. I can name them too. Yeah.
I heard that France is a big buyer of original art. Do you ship to Europe? A lot of your stuff?
Oh yeah, I ship to Europe. I accommodate my European buyers. I've been shipping to Europe for so long, and there's names that I recognize that are, dependable. I've lost a couple things, and a couple packages have been lost during the pandemic. But other than that, I don't have any problems with shipping to from Western Europe to Australia.
Would you say
the English speaking
20% is leaving the U.S.?
No, not 1 out of 5. No, I'd say more like 1 out of 10. Maybe 10% of it is going out, but it comes back. There's a lot of collector wheeler dealers, and they're on CAF, and they're trading stuff back. And I see stuff that I sold people that are getting traded back into the States, and it's it's a pretty global community now.
Speaking of global, one thing I love is old Japanese manga art, and I've yet to see very much of that original art at all ever. And I just was curious if you knew anything about that, stuff like this is from the 70s,
Yeah, it's a real blank for me. If it wasn't made in the States, I have no, I never had a particular interest in it or pursuing it, or how to come across that stuff. I just don't know.
Do any buyers from Asia buy art from you?
It's really weird. I mean, when I first started, there was a lot of action from Japanese collectors, but not anymore. Not anymore. It just seems to have shifted with them. I don't know. Don't send to Japan a lot anymore.
Well, we're going to be ending in a little bit because it's 11:30 in Anthony's time. But maybe we'll have you on again.
I've been drinking coffee, so I'm up.
Nice. We're definitely going to have you on the Mainframe Comic-Con. Looking forward to that. You guys will be hearing more about that. Check out mainframecomiccon.com. You'll check out all the latest that we've been working on. Chad and the group has been working on behind the scenes, trying to get some talent. We're working on getting some sponsorships and some retail incentive people. Maybe Harley Yee and Teddy from Superworld and everybody. I'm trying to get them all to come on in and just do a bit for everybody. Just it's kind of like
I get along with Superworld. He's a good guy. I mean, he's a down to earth person.
Yeah, left him.
I can do business. I cannot buy a comic from Harley. I don't kind of get his.
I actually have bought from Ted before.
It's a running joke. It's like, Harley, sell me a comic book.
Come on, Anthony.
No, I just get the stone face. I get this.
It's great.
Or the worst is if he's eating and you interrupt him. He just stares at you.
It's great.
Yeah.
When are you going to
I
come
played
to
blackjack
Seattle?
with him one time.
When are you coming to Seattle, Anthony? I don't recall.
Well, I came out there that one time. Remember, I was out there one time.
Recently, right? Just like 2 years ago. Or
No,
something?
it was a few years ago. It was like
Couldn't have been that long.
it was the year that Emerald City and Wizard had the Portland show the week before, and I went out there to do both shows, and I just stayed out there the week. What year was that?
That was like 3-4 years ago because that was a jerk move. I remember that.
Yeah,
That wasn't 3-4 years ago. That was like 10 years ago.
No, it's been that long. God, time is weird. Man. I don't think 10 years.
My computer has to go through an update right now. Sorry, I forgot about it. So,
No.
I could keep it going. I'll be back. You just watch the show.
All
you
right.
guys stay on. Do what you want to do.
One more.
Hey,
Okay.
Anthony, tell the people, man,
you
where
go.
they can find you, dude. Where's your site? When are those books going up?
Well, I put up all my, I have my art site, Anthony's Comic Book Art, and I actually have the largest population of original pages in the country available from that site. There's about 25,000 pieces available, and then my eBay store. I put up everything through my eBay store, but that business model might need to evolve. They're not doing us any favors, and rates,
Yeah.
putting the taxes in. Oh my God, it just, they make it harder and harder. So but I have about 150,000 listings on eBay.
Is that where your comics go?
That's where all the comics go. Yeah. Because I have about 5 people doing put-ups every day.
Okay.
So I have to give them work, and then like comics is the easiest way to give them work.
Do you take, like, if someone's looking for a particular piece from artist or whatever, do you ever take like
Wantless?
Yeah.
I used to. It's harder and harder these days. I mean, if somebody specifically, it's hard to keep it, on the top of my mind. Somebody offered me a piece of art the other day. They were like, if you can sell this, you can go ahead, but don't put it on your website. I'm like, oh, what do you mean don't put it on my website? I've worked for 20 years, building the profile and the visibility and the vehicle. Don't put it on your website. Just if you know somebody that wants to pay $20,000 for this piece, you can sell it for a percentage. I'm like, okay, dude.
Yeah,
they don't want it exposed,
right?
Because then, if you don't sell it, they're just going to give it to Heritage anyway, and they want it to be fresh to the market.
Right.
Don't.
You have employed a lot of your family, right? It's a family-run type business, mostly with you. Right?
No, I have employees because.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, your setup is crazy large. I mean, I swear you have like 8 employees at a con. It's nuts. Like the staff that you run to keep that, machine going at a convention.
Well, yeah, the show. I mean, we all have a traveling team, and then my office manager and like production manager. Basically, I leave back, and then I have a full-time shipping guy. And I have a full-time handyman that helps out with shipping. And then I have the warehouse inventory. I have 2 people that work back there full-time. with everything else and just organizing and doing pulls for the day from the orders. And then I have a comic room guy, and then I have an art room guy, and I have another 4 or 5 assistants that do put-ups or watch the store. I have a small store as well in town that I basically opened for my sons to run, but they've lost interest.
Mhm.
So
Now,
they don't want to work for their father.
Now, one of the things at the cons that you can do is that happened to me. I can walk over and say, "There's a piece you have," and I name it and who it's by, and you say, "Yep, we brought it. It's in over there in one of the benders over there," and you know exactly.
No, I know where it is. I know where that goes back to my photography and my visual sense. I have a. I don't know if it's a photographic memory, but it's like I have a kid that says, "Oh, I look for this all day," and I'm like, "It's on the rack on the 3rd shelf on the left, the thick envelope." You look for it all day. Oh, I didn't look on the rack. And it's something I bought like 5 years ago, and it's been sitting there ever since. I remember stuff like that.
I mean, it was funny. I went in there and I asked for the specific Thor piece, and you've had it on your site for about 3 years, at least two years. And I waited for it, and I said, okay, and I'm going to do a cash at the con. And I wanted to see it in person, and I asked for it right away. And it wasn't like you turned around and said, "Get him that binder over there. It's it's in the back right there." And it was right there. I probably haven't seen it. I said, "Well, that's it." And I took it right there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you knew exactly where it was.
Again, it's one of the things about my brain and my personality that attracted me to art, and becoming so involved in art is the visual sense of it, and what made me good at it, I guess.
What would be your ultimate comic art piece if you could ever find it or whatever for your collection?
Well, getting on the trail of those Avengers 4 pages would have been pretty grailish.
Yeah.
What did Wrightson
having Steve Rogers get knocked out of the ice cube? Come on! Oh my God!
Now what did Wrightson do for you? Did Wrightson? He did something. Didn't he draw something for you once, Bernie?
Yeah, he did. He did a zombie for me, and he put a nice big cleft in the chin of the zombie.
I heard that story.
I still have that piece. I have that in my my book of vanities, I guess.
Yeah, because you probably recognize this piece from a couple of years ago I bought from you.
That's so cool. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he would do those when he was still well enough to do those at shows. Yeah. He would do 4 or 5 of those through the show for people for $100, and you're like, huh?
Yeah, sold.
Bernie was. I mean, when I first met Bernie, I was like, wow, that's the nicest guy for such a horror, a horror icon. He's the nicest guy, nicest guy.
Yep, that's what when I interviewed.
Just amazingly nice.
When I was talking to Howard Chaykin once about him, he said, Bernie could have, if we all failed as comic people, Bernie would have been the best artist, period, no matter what he did. He just chose to do that. But he was so nice about it, drove us all crazy. He's so nice. And he lived with
Howard. So nice about it.
Yeah.
Are there some artists that you get requests for over the years and you just can't get the work? Like, what's the
Mobius,
most in-demand guy?
Mobius stuff.
Who?
Mobius.
Oh, Mobius.
Yeah. Mobius. Basically, because he produced in France, and the stuff didn't come back over here very much, but there was such crossover appeal to his work. Mm-hmm. There was a storage space guy that came to me with 100 pages of art one time, and I thought it was all Mobius stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pay this guy anything he wants. He wants $100 a page. It wasn't that long ago, but it turned out to be Alex Nino art that was kind of channeling Mobius. But if that would have been Mobius stuff, that would have been a big score. Big score.
Are any of the modern artists
Wally
today? Oh, Wally Wood.
Wally Wood.
What's that?
I was curious about Wally Wood stuff. And,
I had a sizable collection of Wally Wood art that I just I never put out, and I only offered it privately. And I did a deal on it last year, but I still have his last drawing desk.
Travis
I have
Charette.
Wally Wood's last drawing desk.
That's awesome.
Wow, you got a desk. That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah. I'm into stuff like that. I mean, you know, I have this stuff, you know, I put up like, you know, file copies that were in Jack's house, you know, or Nick Carty's last, you know, the stuff that was under his bed, his children brought to me and sold to me. And I have a 30-pound box of Russ Manning stuff on its way to me.
Wow.
This week. You know, a lot of Tarzan stats, like his file copies from the Tarzan stuff.
From Russ Manning, yeah.
So, yeah, they're still in Russ Manning envelopes, you know, that were like sent from the syndicate for him for his files. So,
has any of Hal
that
Foster,
kind of stuff?
Has any of Hal Foster stuff ever showed up? The serials?
The Tarzan Hal Fosters?
Yeah.
I've had a couple in the past, but not in a long time.
Yeah, I've always looked for them just because that's like I guess if you're a Buscema fan, you realize that he was like a Hal Foster style, and you know, Robert Fawcett.
Where are all the pulp covers?
Well, I mean, you see some here and there, but maybe they weren't kept care of as well as they should have been as well.
I've heard that there's some Virgil Finlay covers. A lot of that stuff was saved by his family or whatever he would if he got it back.
Mm-hmm.
So Virgil Finlay had a lot of it. I don't know about Norm Saunders stuff.
I think Rick what's it called? Rick Akers, Rick's stuff, neat stuff, whatever. He just posted. He just posted a Finley pulp cover he just got.
Oh wow, you did?
Yeah. Just posted it.
Did he just get it? Oh wow.
I'm not sure. I didn't read the whole thing.
He's had one. I think he's had a piece for a little while.
He just bought another pulp cover from Heritage not too long ago.
We just talked about the other day.
You mentioned Schomburg.
You know, speaking of Tarzan artists, you know, I think that 74 book, you know, that Vern Hogarth did.
Oh, for DC?
No, the book, the hardcover.
Okay. I'm familiar with it.
Have you ever gotten into that?
No,
The
I
color
have the hardcovers of Tarzan, but I don't have that one. The Conan one.
Is it
the Tarzan?
No.
one?
It's a hardcover format. It was
like a yellow
it wasn't
cover.
A comic book.
It was like a yellow hardcover to it. Is that right? Is that a yellow hardcover to it? I think I
had it as a kid. It was it made a huge impression on me. That art.
Hogarth.
That Vern Hogarth. That book, the Tarzan book. It came out in like 73, 74.
I had one a long time ago, probably 15 years ago now.
There was there are portfolios published from it. That stuff I love. That would be my.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Pricey.
Those portfolio things that came out. I have the Buscema Conan one and the Wrights and Frankenstein one, obviously. Did they ever? I mean, I've always wondered what happened to the original. Like, is that kind of the original art that people are going for now, or is? Like, I try to tell people that are new to it, like what I say, the more characters you have on the page, for me, made it better for me as an Avengers fan. But if I wanted a single character, I'd like it to be showcased like a Hercules or Thor or someone like that, or Surfer. do you think that, like, I've been trying to say that splash pages have actually not skyrocketed as much as I thought they have, as much as just story pages of key stories have been very popular lately, where it's a key moment in a book has outdone the splash pages. I just thought it was an interesting part. I don't know if you see the same thing. As are key story pages more collectible than the big splash page that might not have to do with the key moment, i.e.
Well, there's a recent story the recent example in the last Heritage auction that is very personal to me,
right?
Where a Killing Joke page that wasn't even good sold for $155,000.
I passed on a Killing Joke page many years ago because I didn't know anything about art, and like Anna Burney writes in interior. I just couldn't come to terms, and that was like I had both of these pieces, and I just didn't know art, and this was many years ago, and it's just I think about that.
Sure.
Well,
I had the X-Men 4 splash in that auction that stalled out at like 110. So, seeing a Killing Joke page where it didn't even have the Joker on it go for 50, like 20, I guess with Hammer, it was like over $20,000 more than the rarest piece of Kirby art, in existence. That just blows my mind, whether it was mine or not. It was just like, okay, Kirby only did 10, 11 issues. This is rare, and a page from, the 90s that doesn't even have the Joker on it.
I do see that happen with certain artists. Their work goes for a lot more like modern artists today than there was a Dick Ayers page that came out on a Ghost Rider page that barely broke 20,000, and the cover for one of the Venom Stegman things went out for 25, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm kind of missing this, but it happens.
Can you talk about the Schomburgs that you were talking about early on? You mentioned you guys were early on were talking about trying to find Schomburgs, and I was curious to know a little bit more about your quest for what that was like.
The only thing that Mancuda was really more focused on it than I was because of the price points. Even at the time, a $10,000 recreation was a lot of money. When I took the train out to Ronkonkoma, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was a long time ago. Huh?
I took the train.
We took the train out there.
Train to Hicksville. I had to transfer it at Babylon to go to Hicksville to go to Ronkonkoma.
Right. Yeah. So the only art that there was a Human Torch cover that was being offered by the Matarenos. I don't know whether they had gone over to Heritage yet. That I don't know. It was very, very rare Schomburg cover.
Chris Barrett just brought up any Jack Kamen pages, and Anthony and I were talking this afternoon about Jack Kamen. His son invented the Segway scooter, and from what I gathered from everybody who's ever told me this, is his son bought up all his art. Anything he could feed, he bought it all up. Because I'm a big fan of, obviously, Jack Kamen being a Jumbo Fight comics. And
I forgot to turn on my chat. I just saying that now. I just turned it on.
I just got that today. Speaking of Jack Kamen.
Well, nice Blue Beetle. Original costume Blue Beetle, too. Yeah. Is that a file copy?
It's an Ohio copy.
Oh, let's check it out. Nice.
I just got that today, actually.
Original Blue Beetle costume. Nice.
Yeah.
So like the
Kamens that I've had have been strips. Inspector, what I forget the name of the strip, but that Jack Kamen did. But I haven't had very much of his art at all.
So
I was just buffering.
Who do you think donated the Amazing Fantasy 15 artwork to the Library of Congress.
Well, I know the story, and I don't know if I should say.
Is there a? I was talking last week about Chester Gould's sequential art. I've seen a lot of it come up on not so much the comic auctions or anything else. Have you seen any of the Dick Tracy, Chester Gould stuff come around? A lot of them are obviously going to be serials.
Like the good old stuff?
Yeah.
No, I've not seen good old stuff in a while.
I saw it on it was not a comic auction. It was almost like a 30s memorabilia auction. They had stuff from Wizard of Oz in there and everything like that. They had some Chester Gould Dick Tracy's in there. And I regretted not even buying it because I think it went for like $500. So I was like, and I heard about it from someone because they were there going to try to buy something from some script from some movie they liked. But yeah. But that's some of the stuff I look for. Chester Gould, Hal Foster. I mean, if I go for the golden, really old stuff, there's a lot of golden age art available. I mean, I do tell people this. I see that at these cons. Like I go to this one in Minnesota, and there's pages upon pages of stuff from the war books. And I just can't believe I've turned it down. And now I wish I wouldn't. Now that, I was much, when I had the ability to buy it all, I never even thought about it. Now I look at all that artwork I passed up, all that golden age artwork, but it could still, it's always around. It always floats around. But golden age art is around.
Yeah, I have some. It's just not right now. I don't have any something that I could really say, hey, this is great, but
yeah. But there's they are out there. They're file copies and stuff.
I have some, I have access to the guy who had the Iger studio, was left to him, and he has stuff still back to the early Fight issues and
Maurice Whitman
and
stuff.
Some Jungle Girl stuff. I actually got a Matt Baker Jungle Girl page from him, and a Flamingo Matt Baker from him, and I try to get more stuff from him when I can. He's elusive, but.
Yeah, the Baker art is really popular now with rightful reason. I have seen some of that Baker art go for a nice premium lately, and I think that's a good thing. So.
Now, there's comics that are art that have kind of gone through the roof because of emotional nostalgia, personal emotional nostalgia. I'm curious. And someone with deep pockets will just pay whatever because it was their childhood book or whatever, and I'm curious, and that can kind of pull up a lot of other art with it in price. What do you think in the long-term effects that kind of thing is going to have on the effect of comic art?
Well, I think the market is growing. And the amount of money that's coming into the market is growing, and the supply is very limited. Mm-hmm. And the supply of even super desirable good stuff is even more limited. So you can see from the auction results, and that supply and demand is taking over, and that the numbers are coming to a place where there's a lot of stuff I can't afford to buy back that I sold, It's like, wow.
But do you
I
see
sold that for
once these guys who grew up and don't mind spending that much because it was important to them as a kid or whatever, once that generation is gone, do you think that the numbers will maintain its height? There's a lot.
How old do you think that generation is right now? What age range are you saying? Like
our age, 40s?
Well, guys my age and a little older.
I would say are the ones who would be interested in late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, late 70s?
For a nostalgia reason.
I think that market's just coming up. I mean, in the 90s and 2000s, all these are growth markets. When I first started this, I I wouldn't buy or try to sell a page that wasn't 70s, and that I liked. And then it became like, well, wait a minute, people want something different. They just don't want what I like, So it became a real business to me when I was willing to carry art that I just didn't relate to or wasn't nostalgic about or didn't like, and was able to carry it as, this is merchandise. I'm stocking the shelves. I don't eat Twinkies, but other people like Twinkies. You know what I mean?
I started buying a lot of 90s art about 2 years ago, just because I was getting like great Larry Stroman splash pages for $100. And now, I mean, I'm looking at splash paper pages. That was my thing I like to get, and they were like meaningful pieces. But that market is still available. I mean, there's a lot of arts that some artists sell directly for their own stuff. Mike Mayu.
Yeah, I've dealt with Larry. Yeah, Larry's a nice guy.
And I bought directly from either Larry Stroman, or I bought from Mike Mayu or Ed McGuinness. I'm looking, or Barry Kitson. Yeah, I'm just looking.
Nicest guy. Barry's the nicest guy.
Oh
my God.
He still does pencils.
And his handler.
Yeah, Caitlin. Yeah.
No, he's a lucky man. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he is. Joel Adams has a funny handler. But I think, like, the way I like collecting art now is if I see a deal on it and it's something I'm emotionally attached to, I love it. If it's something I'm emotionally attached to, I'm going to end up buying it. I'm just going to find a way to do it. And there have been ways recently. Actually, I'm just going to shout out Bill Cox's comic, the art auction that he did about a month and a half ago.
Comic Art Live, yeah.
Was just phenomenal weekend. I mean, I walked out with a piece. I paid a little early to get a little piece, but I got a double page splash from Mike Mayu from the Avengers issue where they go into time travel by Hank Pym's system before Avengers Endgame. This is in the 90s. It was an early issue where the Avengers have to go back in time to go, and the way they do it is using the Pym particles and everything. It's kind of a cool thing, but it's got Vision, Wolverine, Thor, Cap, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Spider-Girl, Jessica Drews, Spider-Man, Red Hulk, not regular Hulk, Banner, and Hank Pym as Ant-Man. So it's just a cool page. I'm just looking at that, why the emotional piece was, because it was in Endgame, and I remember reading in Endgame, I said, this was done back in 2009 or 2008. This was done in a different book when Mike Mayu did it. Yeah. But End Time.
That's awesome, yeah. Well, it was a very successful venture, and he's going to do it again in like every 6 months. It's a lot of work for him. I'm talking to Bill about we're going to do a regular show on Thursday nights, and that's first that I'm putting it out there, actually.
Nice.
We're going to do a show that might not be so comic-centric, just buying and selling, more like selling heroes, like what's hot, what's not, what to get involved in, whether it's comics, art, silver, gold, records, whatever. There's a lot of different stuff I do deals on. And I spent a few thousand in silver this week, and I'm not really selling it. I like having it. I'm holding on. It's a buy and hold type of thing. I buy Disney stock. I think it's undervalued, especially in this depressed time. When they get their revenue streams going, that's $150, $60, $70 stock, and it went all the way down to $77 from $150.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, speaking of care, going back to care of pages real quick, there's a lot of artists who worked on a paper craftsman. Have you?
What's that?
What's your opinion on that? The art that's done on craft tins.
Oh, well, craft tin, is close to my heart because craft tin paper is actually a photographic product. It's you paint on the paper with developer, and the more you paint on that, the more developer you put into it, the darker the dots come. And it was originally invented for newspaper strip art, strip artwork that comes up in those dots back in the day, and that's how. And the darker you wanted the dots, that's how you made your art. The more you painted that developer on. It wasn't paint; it was the actual developer. So that's a lost art. You can't find that stuff anymore.
No, some people say over time it's just gonna all kind of develop like your art.
I mean. Yeah, when you're making a photograph, when you're doing, because I used to do my own photographs. That's how I made money. I would take pictures of, do model test books, and that's how I first started making money as a photographer. And so I would do my own printing, and you put your print, you expose it, and expose it properly, and you put it in the developer, and then you move that when it's done in the developer, you move it to a fixer. And that stops the developer, and then you move it to the cleaner, and if it's done properly, it'll stay like that forever.
Okay, cool.
So, and these guys were, doing a newspaper strip was what everyone's goal was in life. If they did a comic book, they were just trying to get a strip. When Superman, when Simon and Schuster did Superman, the first thing they did was jump ship and do the strip.
Yep.
Because that's where the money was. They'd already given away the rights to Superman, but if they produced the strip and they got 5 cents for every newspaper that ran in as a royalty, then they would make money. That's why, Chick Young and some of those artists, some of those strip artists, the other guy that did the Cartoon Art Museum, the Beetle Bailey.
Oh,
No, the Beetle Bailey artist. I mean, he was a wealthy man because that Beetle Bailey ran in everything. And when he wanted to open, he was buying up stuff to create a cartoon art museum, and he had one open in Miami at one point, and then there was a collection in Connecticut that was being dissolved, and I got some. I still have some stuff in my personal collection from his collection.
That's cool. You want to show Big on Me real quick?
Yeah.
Because I asked the crafting question because I bought this recently, and it was a little bit of a gamble just because I didn't understand craft tint, and I was a little nervous about it. But I'm super glad I bought it. But it's from
Frazetta
and Williamson piece.
Wow.
Buster Cam.
So what? That's Flash Gordon, obviously, right?
Well, it's the famous funny-ish kind of guy. What's it called? I have it right here. Let me grab that.
Buck Rogers? What? No?
Yeah, I mean it's the pseudo Buck Rogers. It's from this book. It's a panel on this.
Buster Crabbe.
But it's the Buck Rogers guy. This is one of the famous funnies and all that. So, but yeah, this was from the Frazetta estate. He glued this. He worked on craft tint just for this for Williamson, and he must have given it back to Frazetta after it was done. So
very cool. And that's about 7 inches tall or 4 by 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just one panel from that book?
Yeah, because the rest this was glued on top of the actual page. So
and it fell off and
or Frazetta just took it, and because the rest of the page is mostly Williamson. Yeah.
It's good.
But I'm glad to know that it's not in too much of a danger.
That's
No, well, also it's from 1940 something. So if something was gonna go, it would have already went.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. People worry, but you know,
Buster
it's
Crabbe
like
was
most
actually the
damage-
actor. You know,
Yeah.
the actor,
Yeah.
and he played. Well, I don't know which one he played. Did he play Flash Gordon or did he play Buck Rogers? I'd have to look that up.
I feel like he was Flash, but
In the serial, he was.
Gordon was.
Huh? He was the serial actor. I'd have to Google that. Well, how late do you guys want to go?
I gotta wrap it up personally.
yeah, I gotta be going soon.
Yeah, I gotta end it soon.
But really
Okay.
appreciate it, Anthony.
Our pleasure.
We could go. This group here could go like all night.
Yeah,
I really could. It is. It's going all
fun.
night. It's 2 hours in.
it's fun. Well, you're going to see Anthony again on Mainframe Comic Con. You could also check out Anthony Comic Art. You can check out the link down there to see his link to his shop. Check out his eBay shop. He's got a lot of good stuff. And Buster played both Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay.
He's one of our fact checkers we have in here. Always make sure we get it right.
I couldn't remember which he played, so he had played both, huh? But that metal ring, I think that's I don't know what that metal ring around his neck. That's
Very
is that
Frazetta.
Buck? I'm gonna say that's Buck Rogers. Huh?
Yeah,
Huh?
Yeah.
because it was the first one he did of that famous Funnies run, and a lot of people consider it the part one of that run, even though it spanned different titles.
Nice. Well, we want to thank
Well,
everybody.
if you have me on again, maybe I'll bring my my Frazetta oil palette I have.
Hell yeah!
Yes, definitely. Welcome on anytime. But thanks everybody for being here. Thank you all for being a friend. And have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you